Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Deepali Kamthania, working as professor in Vivekananda Institute of Professional Studies. And today I am here to give you a talk on the innovation process development. I am thankful to Dean Ma'am for giving me the opportunity to present my ideas to you. I am also thankful to the management who has always been very supported in any of the initiative taken by the faculty. And with this, I'll start with my presentation. Just let me share my screen with you. I hope my screen is visible to all. So today's topic is the innovation development process. And we will just try to cover today these topics in the today's talk. So the agenda here is like we'll first try to understand what is innovation, how this need to be embedded in DNA of any of the organization. And then for this, we will try to look at the most important component here. To be innovative, it's about the creative thinking. And then we'll try to have an idea about the innovation engine and the ecosystem that our government is developing. And then finally, some of the innovations that have come up in the COVID times. So, to start up with, I'll just try to present to you one of a very interesting slide. As you all can see, there are a lot of images that you have on this slide. I hope by this time you all have got the idea what I am trying to present in front of you. As you can just have a look at this particular picture where a teacher is trying to take a class with the help of a mobile, right? And similarly, there are many other pictures which are telling you a lot. And if I just put it in this term, there are a lot of jugards that have been done to make the thing according to our need here. And, we as Indians are very famous that whatever we want to be done, we always have a jugaad for that. But now I'm talking more to it. We are talking about the innovation. So first, let us try to understand the difference that is there between the innovation and the, you can say, jugaad. Before when I generally start with the innovation, I just like to bring to your notice this point that the jugaad is different from the innovation. Jugaad is something, it is just a temporary solution that you make from whatever the things that are available to you or the discarded item to solve definitely the problems that are there in the nature. But these are temporary in nature. Whenever you do any kind of jugaad, you cannot do the mass level production for that. But when we talk about the innovation, you try to talk about a systematic approach, which you will be using to improve the quality of life of the people to solve their existing problem. And this could be repetitive and could be produced on the large scale. Now, whether it is jugaad or it is the innovation, one has to be creative for both these things. Now, but innovations are not just going to come up in one day. This culture has to be embedded into the DNA of any of the organizations, right? The organization can differ from one another, but something that is quite similar in all the organization is the components or the drivers that you have for the innovation. This is our one very famous model that you have for the innovation, which is represented by a pentagon. Then you have a square, you have a triangle, and this particular innovation model is representing here the 12 drivers that you have for the innovation. The talent. When we talk about the talent, we are not trying to talk about the talent that are with the geniuses. Now we are just trying to talk about the creative talent here, right? So, and we all are creative in one sense or the another. Now, when we talk about the energy, we are again not talking about the Einstein kind of energy. We are trying to talk about the individual energy. the individual energy in time of the air, in terms of the determination, in terms of the time, in terms of the dedication he or she is going to put in any of the skill that one has identified with it, and then has to work in a systematic manner. There has to be a method which need to be applied where to polish your skills. Now, individual, when we talk about an organization, there can be an individual who is very creative. Now, that individual should not always be bogged down. His ideas should be thought. And those individuals in an organization who have the creative idea, they all can be put together in a team and they can be given the targets to work on. Now, when they are given the targets, there should also be the flexibility. It's not that they have been allocated 6 months, and within the 6 months, if they are not able to give you the desired output, they are being bogged down. No, they should, even if there is a failure, they have actually taken a risk. Now that risk should not be bogged down. They should be supported. There should be a system which is even ready to just accept the failures. And again, these people should be motivated to just be again in the stream and try to work on their creative ideas. There should be a freedom in the task that has been assigned to them. And definitely, it's not always they are going to, if you have assigned them some task, they have to be very serious. There can be a humor, because that is actually something that is very important in their life. So we'll just try to see more into these components which are required to make any of the organization innovative. But you see, I have put a very important term here. Now, the innovation happens when the source of creativity is mobilized. This is a main thing that is required in order to have the innovation within an organization, and this need to be embedded into the culture of any of the organization. So innovation happens when source of creativity are mobilized in an organization and within an appropriate culture. You give everything, but if the organization culture is not good, the things cannot be promoted. Everyone has to be open to accept the things. Now let's see more into it. Okay, now let us have a look at this. Now, before I go more into the detail of these components, I will first try to talk about relearning creativity, right? Today I'll just try to give you 3 tools that you can go home and try to become a more creative person. Now, when we talk about a creative person, what comes to your mind? Maybe you can say a Picasso, but I have a very different take on creativity. Like if you look for Putin is a brilliant example of world creative leaders who is extremely good at using different ways of thinking to achieve his goal. Now, this is what we are trying to talk more about today, the different way of thinking to achieve a goal. Like one of the studies that was carried out by IBM somewhere in 2010 or 15, I may say, that he asked some 1,600 CEOs across 60 countries worldwide. They were asked that whether they are prepared for the future. And actually, less than half of the CEO, they felt that they themselves and their companies are actually ready for the future. And, when they were asked what they could do to do better things in a company, to actually prepare for the future, what all they came up with, they all came up with a creativity is something that is required across these companies. The resilient feature that all of these CEOs, they mentioned it was creativity. Now I give you another example. LinkedIn, every year they publish a list of common words that they see the people use to describe themselves. And one of the word that is perceived by a maximum number of people, or that came up in the list of the LinkedIn, is creative. many of the people, he or her themselves, they like to mention themselves as the creative person. So creativity is a fundamental human instinct. It is something that we are born with, and that all need and all actually is the key or success to, or you can say the key to success in any of the domain. So when we are talking about training creativity, it's not about the arrogant about the success in that aspect. Like, creativity could be in your private life, it could be in cooking, it could be in decorating home. So creativity is all around. You can see this example or on my slide. Uh, Apart from the many definitions that you have for the creativity, I'll just try to give you a cliche example. When I grew up, uh, it was a cell phone, as you see on this slide, and we have another component that you see on the slide. It is a computer. So for me, the two things were radically separate. They were both technology. They both run on batteries. The batteries could last for weeks and weeks, despite of the normal phone. But when these iPhone came, when this iPhone came, and the iPhone has all the features that we have on phone. Along with that, it has all the features or the process or many of the features that we have in the computers. So what they did, they came up with something creative. Otherwise, for me, the two things were different. One was phone, which was used for just making call. Another was computers, which was used for mails, which were used for a different kind of processing. But iPhone was very creative, and altogether it came up with a different idea, right? This was basically something that I loved, having the new things. I never thought about it because it was a difference between the original component, because in my line of research, we see that the two things, they are quite apart from each other. But why don't they talk about the creativity? So when we have to think about something new or something innovative, then we always cannot work on the same lines. You need to think out of the box. And these kind of thinking, they actually come up with some of the new product. And a very good example, or you can say a very simple example, is our iPhone here, right? Now let's see at another thing that I would like to bring to your notice. Let's see. Now I'm talking about all these things because I'm trying to take you towards relearning creativity. Now I just give one problem to all of you. Like you can see there are 9 dots that are available on your screen. And I just give 15 seconds to all of you to just use 4 straight lines, or maybe you can use less, without lifting the pen and without tracing the same line more than once. I want you all just to take 15 seconds and try to join all these lines just by using 4 lines or maybe less than that, and without lifting your pen. Let me see. I request all of you to just give a try. Okay. Now let's see. I know some of you must have been able to solve this. Let's see. Let's try to have a look at some of the solutions for this. Okay. Let's see. I hope some of you have given an attempt and you have tried to solve this problem. When you look at a person trying to solve this problem on a paper, this will be like solving a strategy, or let's say they will start from one corner, go to the other corner, and you will continue doing this unless you realize that almost you are out of lines. Then you will do what? You will try to cross at 45 degrees and so on, right? So maybe an adult solution could something to be, I'll just go straight, then I'll just try to make a 45-degree angle, and then maybe then I realize that I am left out with still one of the ball here. Now, but before I read this line, I would just like to show you some more solutions to it. You know, I didn't give you any rule just apart from saying that you can use 4 lines without picking up the pen, right? Apart from that, I did not tell you anything, but as if with the age, maybe just we have some sort of rules in our mind. You know, whenever we are trying to do anything, we try to put so many rules. Like we have been told in our maths class that when we have dots, you just join them by the straight line, and then you can just have some kind of an angle and so on. No, none of the rules given to you, but as we grow, we have the tendency to put a lot of rules when we try to do something. And when we put rules there that are not there, that's why what we do, we are actually killing the creativity, right? We put the rules into there that are not there. None of the rule was given, but still what I was trying to do, I was trying to move in the straight line. Then I was trying to make an angle and so on. And that's why I didn't thought about any of the creative solution here. Or as an adult, we generally are trying to put the rules. But let's have a look at some of the kid solutions here. Now, this is also one of the solution. Like I just make a straight line, go ahead, come back, and again make another line. If I look at this, I start from maybe I'll start something like this, then go this. I can come up with the solution, right? So there is randomness, like just a straight, this again a solution. And if you look at the third one, you know, there is I have a one, I can say a bold straight line, which is covering all the dots. What was asked to you, it was just to cover the dots using 4 or less lines and just without picking up the pen. So like these, if you look at the third one, it is again a solution and there is nothing wrong with this solution. It is just a bit different, which we never thought about it. So my point, now what I am trying to make a point here, is that whenever you are looking for something, right, what we do with age, as we go higher in our age, or as we increase in our age, we try to put the rules in. Whenever we are trying to do anything, we have so many conditions, like what will happen, how it will happen, what will be the scenario after that. And when there is so much of rules, definitely what is happening, we are lacking down with age, we are lacking down on the creativity, right? Now let's see. Now, I'm not trying to say that you should not have any kind of rules. You should have rules, right? But not when rules are not given, then we should not try to put them, as I have just showed you with the help of this basic example here. Now let's look more into it. Now I talk about another thing here. Now, expertise and creativity. Now, whenever you are an domain expert, right? So like in order to have anything into the picture, you need to have the subject knowledge. In order to have the subject knowledge, or you can say you become an expertise of that particular subject. So now when you have the expertise, so now it means like more or less, it's like we assume that we know most of the things about that particular topic. And when expertise is there in a particular domain, like you stop being creative, because you are again thinking on the same line, the things that are known to you. And again, what is happening? Your creativity keeps on decreasing. So as the expertise in a domain increases, most of the time it has been seen that there is a decrease in the creativity of a person. Now, another thing that we have here is, now we talk about, as we have seen in this example, we are trying to talk about the associative limitations. Let's see what I am trying to say here is. We talked about that the people get less creative when they grow up, because why? They are trying to put rules in something that is not there, right? So more and more people, as they are more and more, you can say, the domain expert, they are putting so many conditions here, and which is actually leading to what you can say, the less creativity, fall in the creativity. Now, I say here is, so a lot of creativity is actually is about, you can say, improving the brain ability to find the piece of information that you see. So whenever you say you have a creative thinking or a creative training need to be done, you can say, I'll just put across you the 3 tools basically to relearn creativity. As you have seen that with time, more and more rules were applied as a person was, you can say, a domain expertise was there. That is simply like lot of knowledge is there. So a person is becoming regular with those things, and which is again leading to the loss of creativity. Now, how to train? What is the easiest way to train the associative limitations, which we are trying to talk here? Now, when you talk about again, I bring you back to the, for associative limitation, I'm trying to bring you back to the iPhone and the laptop phone. I talked about the conceptual distance. As in our association back in the days of cell phone, it was very far from being associated to a computer. But nowadays, if you consider, they are actually the 2 things are basically put in the 2 things from the different world. They are basically put in the one box, and this is something which we all now just cannot have our lives without that. So now what is required? We need to talk about that, how to train your associative network. Right? You know, a lot of creative thinking is about improving the brain ability to find a different piece of information that seemed to be relevant at that time. Now, so what I'm trying to put across you is, a lot of creative thinking is about, when you talk about the creative thinking, so what we are actually talking about, we are talking about the improving the brain ability. Now here you are trying to talk about improving here we are trying to talk about improving the brain ability to find different piece of information that seems to be irrelevant at times. And this is again one of the example here. If I would have seen long back, then phone and computer, I could have never imagined that there is any relationship between them. So we are talking about the associative limitations and the way to improve this associative linking between the components, which are quite different from each other, is by increasing the brain ability. And as I said in the beginning, I'm just going to give you 3 tools which can help us as we are growing with time, the relearning the creativity. This is some very basic exercise which all of you can perform, and maybe it can make some difference to us. So, how you, in order to train your associative network, so what I'm trying to say here is, to train the associative network, you can just give a try to these 3 things, right? The first, you can do what? You can try to think of some random words. You know, daily you can just pick up a task. And this, as I say, it has to be a continuous kind of a thing. You know, daily what you can do while brushing your teeth, you can just think of, what we say, the 3 random words here, right? And just pick up randomly, just try to pick up any 3 random words. The another way is that priming dream. Now think about one problem, challenge before you go to sleep, and note what you have dreamt about this, and it is related to the problem as no. Okay, now let me just explain what I am trying to say by all these things that are written in the point 2. Now here what we are trying to say, that before you go to sleep, just think about a problem. I'm not saying you start working on that problem, because if you start working on that problem, then you are never going to sleep. I am just saying that you just think about a problem, just go to sleep. Because now why we are saying go to sleep, because in sleep, after we just said that after in the span of 6 to 9 hours, our brain is the most creative. And if you just think with some of the ideas, there is a probability that you might come up with some solution. And whatever you think, if you have a dream of it, we are just, then it says just whatever you have dreamed, just try to put it on a piece of paper, right? And use randomness to solve the current problem. Now what you have seen, you are saying that you think every day in order to improve your creativity, you just try to perform these tasks for some 40 days at it, and then you may be able to, study says that you may be able to see some of the difference in yourself. It says just try to think about the random words, try to have a problem, just think about a problem, try to dream about it. Whatever you have dreamed, just try to put it in the morning on a piece of paper. Use randomness to solve the current problems, right? As the basic example that we have seen about a phone and a computer. Now, similar to it, you are thinking about the random words. With this randomness, you try to solve this problem. Every day when you are coming up with some kind of a new things, gradually you will start thinking about those things in a creative manner. Now, let's see more about it. This is the one of the things that has been, I am asking you all to dream. So you draw your dream, whatever you have in, and then dream into the reality. Whatever is your current state, every day you imagine that I am going to work in a very big multinational company. I'm going to make very good, a huge amount of money. And when you dream about something, right now you are just working in a company which is not, you are not having the enough money which will just, you can say, just fulfill your dreams. So every day what you are doing, you are just thinking about, or you are making an affirmation, and you are trying to, not just an affirmation, ki khali, you are not putting an effort towards this. You need to take up one idea, make that idea your life, think of it, dream it, live on that idea, and let your brain, your muscles, everyone just work towards it to make yourself successful. So this is what we are trying to put you, that you have dream and put your things into the reality. Okay. Now, because to talking about the innovation, what I am trying to talk more today about is innovation is happening through creativity. Now, how to have the creativity embedded into the DNA of an organization, we are trying to talk more about it. I hope I am making sense to you and you are able to understand what I am saying. So I'm today, as we are discussing about the innovation, and from last few of these slides, you have seen that innovation comes with creativity. So, and we have also seen some of the facts that as we become expertise in a particular domain, our creativity tend to decrease. And even with time, we try to put so many rules on everything that we are doing, that this is actually, it is bringing down our creativity. So we have to, first thing, we have to relearn the creativity by making it as a practice. And next thing, that we have to be open to the ideas that we have, right? So basically, creativity is the key to innovation. So we'll talk more about it. Let's see. Now on this slide, what you can see our innovation engine that you have, right? And in this innovation engine, if you see, this has two parts. I represent these two parts. This is the first one. which says your attitude, your habits, and your resource. And another one is knowledge, culture, and imagination. So these are the two parts that you have for the innovation in general. Now, what it says, the inside is you know, your knowledge, your, what you say, was the other one, your knowledge, imagination, and attitude. Knowledge, imagination, and attitude. So this one, we are talking about this one. And the second one, that is the outside one, is the world. That is the resources that are there, the kind of culture, and the habits. Now we'll try to look more into it. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so I'll start with the first one. And the first one here is the, what you say, innovation. You know, now you know, on this slide, whatever is appearing, I think this is something which we all are very much familiar. So whenever we consider the model and explain about the things we need to unlock in creativity. You know, we are talking about this model. And in this model, I'll try to explain you the things that you need to unlock, right? In this model, the things that you need to unlock to, you need to bring, explain what you need to do to unlock the creativity. So we'll start where the most people, you can say you will start. The most people start thinking about creativity by thinking about the imagination. Now, imagination, one of the sad thing about innovation is that we don't really teach people how to increase innovation in school, right? So what we are trying to say here is, when we think about the creativity, we always think about the imagination. But you know, imagination, we say that it is something sad thing which we don't teach to these our students, maybe even at the school level. And so there are always ways to increase our availability to come up with the interesting ideas. Okay, let's go back to our kindergartens to see some of these problems where you will be able to understand what I am saying, that we need to unlock the creativity to increase the imagination. You know, if you look at this question, which has been asked to you a number of times when you were in your schools, 5 plus 5, you know, and the very prompt answer to it, because this is, you all know it is 10, because this is one of the right answer. But what if this particular question is asked in a slightly different way? You know, I'm putting across you the very simple example so that I am able to put forward the idea behind the creativity. So like, instead of being taught to us as like 5 plus 5, 10, why not ask something like, though we have the problems like this, but the maximum problems will be in this part. You know, as you move towards the higher classes, then maybe these kind of problems, they start coming up to you. But what I am asking, why not from the initial state? So like, if it has been asked like this plus this is equal to 10. Now, what the two numbers add up to 10? How many answers are there? We can have n number of solution to this. And when there are n number of solution to it, it means a child is being allowed to think or imagine what could be the possible combination. Maybe like 2 plus 8, 3 plus 7, and so on. So there are n number of solution to this particular problem. So something that is very important for the creativity is imagination. And imagination will come up to you in the way questions are asked to you that determine the type of answers you get, right? So the questions that has been asked so far, they need to be reframed, right? The question you ask is a frame into which you will get the answer. And if you don't ask a question in a thoughtful way, you will get actually, if they are being asked in a thoughtful way, they will be giving you very interesting answer. And if it is just asked in a simple way, 5 plus 5, it is always 10. Like I just always asked you the definitions of the particular whatever subject is being taught to you, rather than something being asked how this is applicable in a particular scenario. So this is what your new educational policy is also bringing forward to you, that rather than just asking you the simple kind of definitions, now more and more practical oriented questions they need to be put. Similarly, I ask, there is another question which you will be able to understand. Now, generally what we say, what if the earth is not at the center of the solar system, right? This is what you all have been answering throughout. Now, another way to say this is, what if it is? And if it is asked, you can see it will open up the entire study. I'm sorry. I will open up the entire study for your astronomy. So in order to be creative, you need to be the imagination need to be there, and imagination need to be inculcated since the kindergarten times, or you can say since the very initial stage. The questions, they need to be framed, reframed in order to increase the imagination. So let's talk about the another thing that about the imagination only. You know, something this seems quite weird to you. You know, most you can say the way you know in this slides, what you are seeing a shoe with an umbrella, you are seeing a shoe with a brush. So you know, this is some of the Copernican revolution for you have for reframing of the things that you have here. You know, another way what you can have here is most of the inventions that you have, you will have one invention here. You know, most invention in the world, the most innovation come from putting things together that haven't been together. You know, though these things seems like not the relevant kind of innovations, but this is also quite an innovative way to do the things. So when you are connecting and combining the ideas, sometimes the things could be very creative, it could be very useful, or sometimes you can end up with some kind of a humor product which are not very much relevant in the context. Hello, I hope I am audible. Okay. Okay. So this is what we were trying to say. You need to connect and combine the ideas. Now, you know, in one of the study that was done at the Stanford University, uh, challenging, you can say a challenging assumption. You know, we are trying to talk about the imagination. Imagination, we are trying to talk about three components. And these three components here are the framing and reframing of the questions that you have, which need to be inculcated from the very beginning. And next, what we talk about, we talk about the connect and combining of the ideas. You can say sometimes they can come up with some very good kind of solutions, or sometimes it could be end up in some kind of the fun products that you can have here. And your job is what? Your job here is to come up with a creative way to connect these things in a really interesting and surprising way. So if you look at both these things, though not very useful, but they are definitely being very really interesting and surprising way to connect these things. Now, the third thing you have in the imagination is challenging assumption. You know, challenging assumptions. Let's see. Now, I'll give you an example of a group of students at the Osaka University. And these students, they were given a problem here, as you can see on this particular slide. You can see here on this particular slide, these students at the Osaka University, they were given one of the problem here. And what did you throw away today? It was about what you say, a trash that you have, or a dustbin that you have, where number of components have been mentioned here. And these students, they were given 2 hours to just utilize the things, or they whatever they have thrown, or whatever is available to them in their what you can say, the dustbin that they have. And this particular activity was simultaneously carried out by the students in other universities also. The teacher has actually made a great attempt to involve the students in bringing their imaginative ideas. And you will be surprised to see after 2 hours the kind of things that the students have brought up from the activity. This is something that the students got from one of the trash bin that they have, and this is what they have actually drawn out of it. The second one, you can see there's some socks or some white material clothes, then black clothes, and this is one of the students in 2 hours they have come up. So even to you make what you understood from here, that even the trash can be of some use. It can come up with some creative idea. So you actually need to challenge the creativity among these students. You need to reframe their problem statements. You have to give them the challenging kind of problems, and you need to allow them to, maybe sometimes they come up with the good ideas, sometimes something funny they come up. They need to connect and combine the ideas. So this is what we have been discussing. Don't leave the track that what we have been discussing. We have been discussing how to embed DNA into, or innovation into DNA of any of the organization. Now let's come more to it. Now, what you have seen here, we have seen that how in the 2 hours the trash can prove to be some utility. Now you need to look at the innovation engine, which we have been discussing. This was our innovation engine. Let's go back. So now we are trying to talk about the next component that we have in the innovation engine. Now the next thing that you have here is, you need to look at the piece of innovation engine, and the next piece here is knowledge. Knowledge is a toolbox for your imagination. Today we hear about all the medical breakthroughs and about the autonomous vehicle, the robots, and why and how could you make them? The people who have actually made them, they have the knowledge about the medicine, about the engineering, about the electronics. And now, of course, these people have learned all these things by going to school, reading so many books, putting their lot of hours into these books. But one of the most important way to learn things or to gain knowledge is by paying attention. Apart from going to schools, reading a lot of many books, something that one has to be very vigilant is about the paying attention. Most of us, we do not pay attention to the world around us. Now by doing that, not only we miss the opportunities, we can to see the problems and solve these problems, but we miss on the fronts that we can actually be imaginative enough to solve these problems. Every person need to have an attitude, the mindset, the motivation, and the drive to solve the problems they are seeing around themselves. If you don't have a drive and the motivation, you are not going to connect and combine the ideas. You are not going to reframe the problems. You are not going to challenge the assumptions, and you go beyond the first answer. I hope you are able to follow what we are trying to say. We are trying to say that imagination and knowledge, they are not enough. Every person must have the attitude, the mindset, and the motivation. Unless and until you don't have the drive and the motivation, you are not going to connect and combine the ideas. You are not again and again going to reframe the problems. You are not going to challenge the assumption, right? Once you are into that, you should basically have an attitude for that. And most of the people view themselves like a puzzle builder. Basically they see themselves as having a very defined task. They do their jobs to put themselves together and they try to reach to their goals. But let's see what happens if you see about this puzzle and I lose one of the piece, then I will never be able to solve these problems. So what we are trying to say here, you don't have to be a puzzle builder. What as an innovator or as an entrepreneur, you need to see, you need to be something like a quilt master. So whatever is available to you, whatever piece of information, piece, work, material is available to you, using that, you have to come up with something creative, right? So attitude, first what is required? Imagination is required. How imagination can be developed? By rethinking, by reframing the problem. Then what you need to have? You need to have an attitude. And what attitude? You need to have an attitude of a quilt maker. Whatever is there, whatever different pieces you can see from this, you have to come up with the creative solution. Now let's look at the next part. Now, so if you look at this, so basically what we can see here is, you see, the true innovator or the true entrepreneur actually sees themselves like a quilt maker. They basically take all the resources around them. They leverage them, even if it is a garbage can, right? They are able to come up with something that is really fascinating. So if you see here, this is the internal. So this is our internal combustion, right? This is what we talk in the initially, that we have the two kind of rings here. One is the internal and another one is the outside one. So what we have discussed till now is the internal combustion engine that is required. That is the knowledge, the imagination and attitude. These three things are required as for an individual to be creative. Our knowledge is a toolbox for creativity. Our imagination is the catalyst that transforms the knowledge to idea, and our attitude is the spark that will keep on going. Now and our attitude, unfortunately, whatever we are talking, this is not enough. And one of the reasons why there are so many amazing creative people who are basically not living up to the creative potential, it is because of that they are not in the environment to foster and simulate and encourage this type of innovation. What we are trying to do, there are so many people, but still they are not able to come up to the max of their creativity. Now why? Because we are trying to say, because they are not getting the kind of environment. So now let us have a look at the outside engine. So I am going to have a look at the outside engine. I am going to start with the habits. Let us have a look at that. Now habits include several things. It is certainly the people you work with. It's then the rule, rewards, the constraint, the incentive, but even more than that is the physical space. Now, why I'm trying to say that, very soon you will understand that. When we were small, we have this kindergarten kind of a setup where these were the simulating environment. You walk, it's your place. You are supposed to be creative, colorful. Your room is flexible, and when you get used to this environment, then what happened? You are shifted to this kind of environment. Now, your room, there are chairs that are aligned. There's a bottle, you can say there is a cemented floor that you have. And if you were free to talk with everyone, you can just discuss whatever you want, chit chat all the day. But whenever in this environment, in the class, you try to talk, it is something like silence is the golden rule. And the fact that we get very upset because the student, they are not so creative anymore, right? Now, why? Because here if you look at, they're so free, whatever they want, they can do. But now there are so many rules and regulation. They have to attend the classes, there have to be 80% attendance, there have to be assignments, and all these things are doing what? It's not giving them the free time and the time to come up with their creative imagination or work on their imagination. So this is start killing their creativity. But finally they got set up to this environment, successful in this environment, and you know what, then next what happened? They come up to another environment, that is the workplace. And these type of things, if you see, they, you know, these are designed like kind of a, maybe I just call it as a prison, and these people are very frustrated working on there, because the things, you know, the thing is a space where you tell the story. Every space is a stage on which you play off your life, and it tells what role you play, how we act. You know, our schools are actually the picture of the class, the kindergartens back where, just you were free to do anything. But now what you have a kind of a structure, where you are actually you here you have a kind of a defined role which you go every day. You just sit there for 7 to 8 hours, and then finally you start getting bored with the kind of work that you are having. As we already discussed, you become expert in your domain. Again, what happened? You start killing the creativity. Now next, now let us have a look at few of the pictures here. If this kind of environment, these students are there, they are working actually, they can be given the problems, they can be reframed, they can be put across them in a more creative way, rather than having just all classes in a lecture kind of a theater. There can be round tables, there can be open kind of discussions, now which will allow students to think more and think more in a creative way. They can come up with the good solutions. Now just have a look at the picture of the Google office in Zurich, the picture from the picture that you have. Now this is the kind of environment where you say innovation, creativity and playfulness are valued, right? But again, we can say just this space is not enough. Now we also have to think about the resources that we have in the environment. Now, when you talk about the resources, they come in different flavors. Now, unfortunately, we think of resource as money only. Money is, of course, that is required, and it is something that is very much required in the Silicon Valley, but it is not the only resource we have. We have to look at the process. We need to put them in place. We also have to look at the culture that we build. Now, think of a culture that is there. Culture is something that is very important. Culture is the last piece of an innovation engine, right? Culture is the background. It is something that it is the culture of an organization. अगर आपने जो शुरू से हमने एक बात करी कि आपका क्या है, एक इनोवेशन इंजन है. इनोवेशन इंजन में क्या है, इन है और आउटसाइड आपका वर्ल्ड है. जब आप आउटसाइड की बात कर रहे हो, आप किसी एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के कल्चर की बात कर रहे हो, वहां के हैबिट्स की बात कर रहे हो, आप लोगों को कैसा एनवायरनमेंट दे रहे हो, क्या रिसोर्सेज दे रहे हो. सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स व्हेन पुट टुगेदर, नाउ वी से it is like which we are trying to talk about the imaginations. Now let us have a look more into it. Now if you look at it, now let's have imagination. अगर जो हमने ये एक जो शुरू में इनोवेशन इंजन लिया था, अगर आप इसमें देखो, innovation, imagination and habits, they are parallel to each other. Knowledge and resource, they are parallel to each other. Attitude and culture, it is parallel to each other. Now why? Let's say imagination and habits, because the habits we build are external manifestation of our imagination. If you imagine it, you can build it. And in addition, habits we build directly affects our imagination, the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act. This is also true with knowledge and resource. The more we know, the more resource we can unlock, and the more of the type we have that determine what we know, right? Like something like the more we know about fishing, the more fish we can. We can catch more fish. The more fish we have in our environment, more likely we know about fishing. Now, again, the third thing also, it is also true with attitude and culture. Culture is collective attitude of the community, and culture clearly affects how we think. So this is something we can say the wonderful thing about mobility strip of the innovation engine is so powerful that wherever you want, you can give a start, right? If you're a manager in any of the organization, you can set up a culture. If you are a teacher in any of the organization, you can set up a culture of your class. You can think about a culture, a particular culture of a class. You can set up that culture. You can build habits to stimulate the imagination. If you are an individual, you can start up by building your own knowledge base. You can start up with your passion and your attitude. And with your attitude, you're going to solve your problem. You can start anywhere where you want, right? You can just start. Everyone has a key. Everyone has a key to the innovation. It's up to them to start. This is something really important. If you talk about innovation, definitely it is not going to come up in one day. Even if you look at the policies that your government is bringing up today, if I talk about at the students level, there are so many IIC cells are started with this particular purpose only, that not only the IITs and NITs, they come up with innovations. IIC cells are being supported by the government. There's so many talks, invited talks, the prototyping of the products, all these things are being told to the students. The new educational policy has come up where where more of the practical implications are being taught. No more these simple kind of questions are supposed to be asked. So what we are doing, or the government is doing, they are also trying to have a base to the innovation. They are trying to have develop creative thinking in the youth, because in a long run, these are only the people who are going to come up with the innovative ideas. If you look at the type hackathons that are being organized by different institute, and even at the national level, you have the Smart India hackathons. All these things are doing what? They are developing, the students are given a problem. Then in order to have a solution, do they what? They rethink on their problem. They they study a lot because they have to develop a product. So they are increasing their knowledge base. These students, they have an attitude. So at the time of the hackathon, whatever products are given to them, using those components only, they try to come up with a product. So all these are the steps towards embedding the DNA into our society. Now with this, I would like to show you some of the, what you can say, the innovations that are being done at different levels. So this is just one of the structure which says how innovation, the teachers and students, it is affecting the different cadre that we were trying to talk about. I'll just show you some of the innovation that has taken place in the COVID time. And one of the example of this is the fashion industry, the fashion industry, the stock management, the supply chain, and the health sector. Innovation in digital fashion extend to virtual fashion show. If you just have a look at this, there are designs, this one of the website is here. I've just given a link for that. If you want, you can go in details for that. There you can just have your picture, and it allows you to choose the different fabric, the color, the kind of stitching, the material that you want. And then you can come up with the entire dress. Different kind of looks can be created for this. And all this is done virtually. Now, why I'm discussing to you, you may say, why you are discussing fashion or health with us? We are all IT students. Artificial intelligence or your Android apps, your websites, all these roles are of the computer engineers, and your role is very well placed in this, as you will see with some of the examples here. Let's have a look at this. When I am talking about this fashion industry, what we are trying to talk, We are trying to talk about design. We are trying to talk about merchandise and planning, then about the selling, sourcing and chain, and then finally the customer engagement. Let us have a look at each phase. How, as a software engineer or as a software development, your role is not there. When you talk about 3D design, digital sampling, digital showrooms, then online manufacturing, online demands you have, then you are saying you are having the virtual show, you are having all your AR, VR kind of things here. AI trend forecasting, when you are talking, you have all the artificial intelligence, machine learning, everything, live selling. Then again, you have the network. So at each stage, the role is there. You have to think in a manner how the things can be done in a creative way and how you can be innovative. So coming up just from the simple showrooms or the where you just pick up your material, now you are trying to talk about everything that is going to be online in nature. So this is again one of the digital acceleration that we have in the fashion industry. Now let us have a look at again some of the innovation that took place at the time of the COVID, and all these things you will find if you observe. Then it is not only the doctors that have their role here. The I can say the software engineers or the a data analytical person, all they have played a major role in development of these different innovation. Like one is the health company uses drone for medical support, right? So these drones, they can fly up to 80 miles per hour, even when there is a rain, and they can just do what? They can just deliver the product. And in future, these drones, they can even be used for the vaccination purpose, giving the vaccination to the people without maybe waiting for putting people at their risk. Now have a look at the second innovation. The second innovation is what? One of the company, ventilation device company, they came up with a patient data management software, that is AirView, right? So again, your role is here as a MCA and BCA student to better serve patient during the COVID. Now AirView uses what? It uses a cellular chip on the ventilation device, and it do what? It capture all the data, and this data is on the dashboard of the healthcare teams, and they are able to understand what is the situation of the person, and they can be monitored from their homes. The third one you have, again, your role is there. A doc app, it is used to track the patient vitals virtually, right? So our app has been developed, powered by your AI for signal processing, where it's used to convert the light reflectors that you have into whatever the signal measures. And every time you can just, without being present there physically, the information patient can be tracked. Then you have Tyto care monitors, which can be used to listen to the heart, patient's heart, and transmit the image of the lungs. Now AI features can be used to detect the different kind of problems if it is there in the person. Then fifth one is the development of the low cost assembly ventilators is there. Another one, what you have the hospital use VR for training, right? So audio augmented reality kind of a thing. Then AI is coming into the picture, where the staff is being trained virtually. The next you have is AI software, 3D nasal printed testing swab is there. So again, the 3D printed swab is there to check the samples, and which is increasing the testing rate. The next, what you have the Mayo Clinic. Our clinical data analytics platform has been set to study different research studies to develop the new therapies that you have for the patients that you have. Another one is the one-arm robot is developed for the COVID to deliver the things to the COVID reliefs. Now, another thing that you have here is a Sutter bot. So what I am trying to put across you, that it it's not that innovation, when there was a COVID time, the innovation, the people just stopped being creative. And they were just waiting for the things to happen right on their own. There were the people who were motivated, who have the attitude to work for the things, and they actually came up with the good products. So as MCA and BCA students, you all have been developing the boards. You just have to think something about, you just don't have to ignore the problem that is there. You have to think about that problem. You have to think in a creative way how to solve that particular problem. And this has to be a regular kind of a thing. You always have to think about the things in an unusual way. You just have to think out of box, and gradually, as you keep on increasing with the creative thinking, more and more innovation automatically will keep on coming out of our organizations and out of our country. I think I have done with the time, so I'll just stop here, and maybe sometime later we'll try to discuss few more things. And thank you, everyone. Thank you all.